When we come back, we'll try to clean this up. We'll do the seam sealer. After that, I think it's time to get the fuel system in the car and try to start the Coyotes. I went ahead and ground most of these down to a point where I'll be happy just doing the seam sealer over it and call it good. I was gonna do the seam sealer now, but I think I should do that when I'm actually ready to paint the interior. So instead of that, I think we'll work on dropping in the motor and running some fuel lines. Before I do all that though, or really start doing that, I'm gonna have to clean this shop up because this place is just a mess. Maybe I'll do a time lapse of it, maybe I won't, but that's the next thing I'm gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and throw our new clutch in. First thing we wanna make sure is that we have this on. This is for the crankshaft position sensor, if I'm not mistaken. I'm about 100% sure. Because it's on the crankshaft, and there's a sensor right there, and it's got all these teeth. So, there's actually only one way that this can be on, which in my case is like that. It has the keyhole here, the crank is keyed as well, and then it's the only way that all these will line up as well. So, don't forget that, if it was taken off, make sure you put that back on. Super important. First thing we're gonna do is take this thing apart. You wanna make a note of how that is orientated. This is your alignment mark for it. We're taking all these nuts, they're crush washers, and then the final washer off. And I'm just putting them inside of a plastic bag. That way I don't lose any of it. So once you get this secondary pressure plate off, right here, these three spots are where it was bolted onto. And these all have a very specific shim on them from the factory, which they tell you how to adjust inside of the instructions, but I shouldn't need to as I'm using factory specs. So what I'm gonna do is just leave these on and then just loosely put the nuts that we're holding this on back in place. That way I don't mess up the order of these. Now that we got this in place properly, make sure that you don't lose these washers because I had a couple fall off, just had to put them back where they were, obviously. We're gonna go ahead and put some red Loctite on this, and then we're gonna torque these down. So you wanna do it in a star pattern. You're gonna do it at 28 foot-pounds, and then after that, it's another 90 degrees. I'll use my digital to get it to the 28 foot-pounds, and then I'll kinda eyeball the last 90 because I don't have an angle one. Now that we got these on and properly torqued down, I was just marking them as I went to make sure I didn't, do the same one twice, break something. I'm just gonna clean the mating surface on here. We're gonna do the same thing on that piece when we put it on. Everything gets cleaned as we assemble it, just because you don't want any grease or oil on the stuff as it's, once it's actually together. It's mainly that you don't wanna get it on the clutch material. Now that we have these bolts on holding this floater area on, these floater studs, these get torqued down to 25 foot-pounds. And then I clean this surface here. So we're ready to put our next piece on. Remember, double check the little washers back here. Make sure that you didn't lose any. We got that clutch pack on, line it up with the alignment marks down there, and torque this down. But remember to clean this stuff first. When you're putting these nuts back on, just make sure you do it in the same orientation everything came off, which for me was this washer, then the lock washer, and then last was the nut. I just did a light hand thread on all these. And then we will do it so that there's a little bit of pressure here and then torque it down finally last. Went ahead and torqued these down to the 35 foot-pounds that it calls for. Just like these, you don't want to put any Loctite on this section because it has these lock washers in. Should be able to get this out, the clutch alignment tool, and we're golden. So I've been trying to figure out what I want to do next because obviously I want to drop this in. But I didn't know if I wanted to have the transmission attached or not. The answer that I came up with is no. And then the next thing I was thinking about was the long tube headers. Because I have the Kooks Long Tube Headers, I can actually put them on kind of in sections and remove certain parts of it. So what I think I'm gonna do is throw the headers on just so that it makes my life a little bit easier. And then the sections that have to be taken off and then put back on once it's in the car, I can do that. And then I may have to remove the steering shaft. I'm definitely gonna have to remove that brace, the K-member brace at the bottom there. But I think that the best way for me to do what I want right now is just to get those things on the motor as much as possible for when I drop it into the engine bay. So that's what I'm gonna do here next. Got these guys on both sides, so I think the next step is gonna be just prepping the car for dropping this thing in. So like I said, we'll take that brace out for sure, and then we'll see if we have to get the steering shaft out. I actually don't think we do, unless it comes up between here. One thing we're doing also is putting in the steel braided clutch line. It has this little clip right here that you just pull out, and then you can get the old plastic one out. And then this one is from UPR, so you pretty much just press this in and then do that, and you're golden. I didn't have to do this right now, but I just kind of wanted it on the car just in case I forgot. It's a little bit easier to get to now than I assume when it's up in the car. I went ahead and started to try to get this transmission in place, but I don't have a jack to do it. I tried doing something with the strap, and clearly it broke. So, a little sketchy there, but I'm gonna see if I can get either a actual transmission jack or what, but we'll figure that out. Two reasons I wasn't really filming with my GoPro is one, time, and two, I forgot my mount for it. So yeah. Regardless, we'll come back tomorrow and keep chugging along. So obviously, yesterday didn't go as planned as far as getting this in, but we have backup. This motorcycle jack should help us out with this. So I gotta get this on it, or get this on that, and then I'll try and do it. There's really just not a lot of room under here to record, so I'll just let's show you it after. I don't know where I'm gonna interject this into the video, but I got the transmission mostly in place, and I realized I forgot something kind of important, which is this plate. Don't be like me, don't have to put this in with the transmission like in place. This pretty much describes how today's going. Anyways, I can't get the transmission to properly mate with the back of the engine block. I've tried just about everything that I can. It's going into the first set of the clutch, because you know I had the dual clutch setup, right? It's going into the first one, but it's not going any further. I'm not sure why. I can't really get the transmission out though because of the exhaust being in the way. So for future reference, probably don't put the exhaust on, those long tubes on, until the transmission's in place. I think what I should have done is just left them on, like put them kind of in place, and then drop the motor in. Guess I'll go inside. It felt good at first. So I think next time what I would do is have the transmission kind of in place, and then put the headers just like dropped in the location that they're supposed to be roughly, and then drop the motor. We'll see if that's a better route to go next time, I guess. But you know, I'm figuring this stuff out as I go. So for right now, the transmission is like propped up. I can leave it like that for a little bit. I'm not like overly worried about it right this moment. I'm gonna try and mess with it, but I don't have that long here. I gotta work all day tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So I don't know, maybe I'll be able to get in tomorrow after work, but I'll figure that out when I get there. We'll see. If I can make it, like if I can make it meet up that last little bit today, I'll be ecstatic, because I don't want to come back just for this. And then that also means I kind of did nothing today. I loosened the passenger side long tubes, took all of the top header bolts out so that that's pretty much free in there. I may do the same thing for the driver's side, just to give me that extra little room. It's just because the MT82 has the bell housing attached to the transmission, unlike the T5, which is what I'm used to working with. That's really what's throwing me off here. This transmission's just huge. So, you know, if I was on a lift and all that, this would probably be a lot easier, but I got what I got. So we'll come back to this, or you'll see an update. So it's like 2 weeks since I recorded. I came back into the shop and I just started working on the car. I just didn't feel like recording while I was doing this because I've been busy and frustrated and all this crap. I got it mated up. Pretty much I did take the transmission back out, and then I took the clutch off, redid the alignment with the clutch alignment tool, and then threw everything back together. But I did have to take this passenger side header off in order to get it back in. I do think that this was partially in my way, kind of just a mixture of the alignment and this exhaust being here. So threw this back on, threw the transmission in, and got a couple of bolts in it. So I'll put the rest of the hardware in, and yeah, time to keep on moving on. Before I end the video, I just wanted to take a second to explain why the video didn't go up last week. It's because I didn't finish that and get it actually mated. And I wanted to make sure that there wasn't something that I didn't do seriously wrong that might mess up your guys' cars. Obviously, these aren't really tutorials. It's more just me documenting what I'm doing. So, you know, take them for what they are. But I don't want to put out information that I know is wrong. I'm just trying to have full transparency with this stuff. I'm really just documenting what I'm doing. But again, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Which is this motorcycle jack. But like, if I can make it meet up that last little bit today, I'll be ecstatic. Wish that would have taken me out. Anyways.